So now what we're going to look at is the solutions to some of the issues that you might face when learning to drive with dyslexia and dyspraxia. First of all, Colleen is going to talk us through some of the solutions for the driving lessons themselves. Colleen.
Right. Okay, well, one thing is that, as I've mentioned earlier, that it can take you longer as a dyslexic or dyspraxic to acquire skills or knowledge. So you might actually need more lessons. It doesn't affect everyone, but it is something you have to think about. But what's really important is what we call the 4 M's, and that's to make learning memorable, multisensory, metacognitive and manageable. So
right.
If I take all of those, not necessarily in the right order, I'd say multisensory is one of the most important things, and this links into what you said earlier about learning styles. There are several learning styles, and the way to maximise learning for anybody is to use as many channels as possible. It's particularly important for dyslexic and dyspraxic learners because usually one or more of those channels are compromised. So dyslexic or dyspraxic people may have difficulties with processing auditory information, processing visual information, or processing sort of movement, kinesthetical information. So if you use as many senses as possible at the same time, you're actually increasing the information going in and the chance of you learning that. So examples of sort of things you could do, perhaps drawing pictures. I can remember you used to print off photographs off Google for me of roundabouts and things like that, because I had a particular problem with understanding roundabouts. And then the little toy car reversing and moving it around just to show which way the wheels should go when you turn it, particularly when you're going backwards. Diane sort of would record instructions that I could listen to in between lessons on particular manoeuvres. And I was also using multisensory strategies myself, because I do tend to talk as and I still do it now. When I'm driving, I will talk to my car, and I will say to my car, okay, and Alice, we are turning right now. And I know it sounds silly, but it works. It sort of helps me remember if I told my car what I'm going to do. So that's the sort of thing, that helps.
That is great, thank you. And I think there's a lot of useful information there for pupils and instructors alike. There's going to be further techniques later on in this DVD that will also back up some of Colleen's suggestions.
And also, going on to the other ends, we mustn't forget those, metacognitive means understanding how you learn, so understanding what style works for you, what strategies work for you. Memorable is using perhaps memory tricks to help you remember things. So, for example, I used to call I still do, my windscreen wipers windy wipers, and you remember they're next to the window, and the indicators are indie winkers.
Yes.
So windy wipers, indie winkers, so you remember where these things are. So it's memory tricks. But also, if you make learning fun, it's more memorable. So, if you enjoy your lessons and have a bit of a laugh and a banter with your instructor, that helps as well. Now the other ones are manageable, so doing it in manageable small chunks. So I can remember that Diane used to tackle particular areas of weakness one at a time rather than trying to improve everything at once. So you sort of would perhaps focus a few lessons on improving my use of the gears. And once I've got that right, you'd move on to something else, so not sort of flood a learner with too much new stuff at the same time. And what was the last one?
You had your 4 M's.
Multisensory.
Metacognitive.
Manageable. Memorable. Yes, and we've got them all now. Yeah. Okay. So that's it basically, I think, on the lessons. That's
great. Thank you very much, Colleen.